In fact, that Kataka Samhita gives an elaboration on how Nachiketa chose that particular time to go to the doors of hell. He's been advised that now that you have been, so to say, condemned to the doors of hell, now you choose this particular occasion where Yama will be absent. And thereby, you can eke out some good things out of him. So Nachiketa follows that. Nachiketa is not not a clever guy. He's a very simple boy. But he has got tremendous faith in the Shastras. So he was helped thus, and he reached the Yamaloka at the correct time. And the same thing happened. Yama was not there. And then Yama had to, in order to appease the guest, Yama had to offer 3 boons. So the first boon was when he was given the choice to ask the first boon. He says, he first secures his so-called the worldly status. He says, I am going to be returned by you. See, this one particular boon has got multiple things in being asked. Just one boon offers him a lot of freebies. He says, when you send me home, so that means sending home is taken for granted. My father will not be angry, so my father will be alive. And I will go home alive. And he will not be angry with me. That just small little boy, and one boon ensured that his return is safe and sound. He's not going to do a crash landing. And yeah, so he was. So the Shloka 11 also encores the same idea. Shloka 11. So yatha purastad bhavita pratita auddalaki arudihi mat prasishtaha sukham ratrihi shayita vitamanyuho tvam dadrishivan mrityu mukat pramuttam. So same idea, in 2 shlokas it comes that when he will be a Shanta Sankalpa, he will be calm and quiet and he will greet me with love and affection. Usually when they say a monk, when he takes up the vows of sannyasa, further to which he will not be entertained in the households. The households will not take him. The reason being that he has readied himself for the final journey. There's something called as the ritual of the final passage. This final passage ritual, which is called Shraddha ceremony, he does it for himself on the day of his sannyasa. So that means he is ready to enter into the realms of death. That's the reason why in the olden days, the householders will never entertain the sannyasis coming back home. On whatever account, for whatever reason, they are not supposed to get back to their families. Even the passing high-by also is not permitted. So they become the wandering mendicants. They move from place to place to place. Nowhere they will stay for long because they have given up the so-called all worldly attachments and afflictions. Therefore, and the society also entreats them in the same manner. They give him whatever little left for his subsistence, and further to which no other interaction. But in return, the monk, the mendicant, may give some holy counsel, good advice for the peaceful livelihood, but never he will be entertained for long, for the simple reason that he has already given up the worldly pursuits, and more so that he has done his Atma Shraddha. So it is considered a bit ominous to have such a person who has done Atma Shraddha to be brought into the household. So they will never do that. He will typically, these are the notions which are prevailing long back. So he will be moving from temple to temple, pilgrimage to pilgrimage. He will be moving from rivers to oceans to seas and then lakes. He will be under the mercy of the sky and the nature. He'll never get into the households. So similar. So the person who is getting ready for the final journey himself gets this treatment. What about the man who has already taken that journey, namely Nachiketa? So having reached the doors of hell, there is absolutely no way he will be accepted in the households again. So that's the reason why his particular prayer in that juncture is very, very appropriate. That his father should accept him. By there are many ways this can be achieved, because memories are the one which tells you what you were before. So if the memory is erased, then you are what you are, what I see you now. Shloka 13. Sattvam agnim swargya madhyeshi mrityo prabruhitam shraddadhanaya mahyam swargaloka amritatvam bhajanta etad vitiyena vrane varena. Now the second boon, this is also a bit of the worldly kind. Nachiketa asks, what is that particular sacrifice, fire sacrifice, that can be done, performed, so that people enjoy heavenly bliss? Because the Vedas, as you know, has got two portions. One is the Purva and the Uttara. And Mimamsa is what you call as the body of knowledge. The entire body of knowledge is Mimamsa. And then the front portion and the later portion. The front portion, quite a bit of it, near about, in fact, all the Samhitas and the Brahmanas, Samhita, Brahmana, and then you have got the Aranyaka and Upanishads. So Aranyaka and Upanishads are very small. Samhita, Brahmana is the dominating section of the corpus of Vedic knowledge. So there you find a lot of these praises of these gods, different gods' names are taken, their praises are there, and then rituals are there, and these rituals are delineated to the finest details. So out of that comes various branches of ancestry who practice so much so that a particular ritual you have a lineage. Because that ritual itself is so exhaustive in nature, one lineage is required to perform the ritual and keep the particular tradition alive. Brahmana is Karmakanda. Aranyaka is the interface between the Karmakanda and the Upanishads. All the Upanishads actually come even in Brahmanas. In Samhita Upanishad is there, Brahmana Upanishad is there, Aranyaka Upanishad. Typically Upanishads come in Aranyaka. So in the Aranyaka portion where the knowledge pursuit begins. And in the Karmakanda we have rituals. And when these guys say ritual, they mean it. They mean it to the bare bones of it. So they have got a variety of articles to be acquired, the materials to be procured, and then preparations to be done. Detailed recipes are given, and then there is a ritual. My teacher told me this. Actually, this the Brahmana portion, which is the ritual part, unless you do it, unless we get trained into it, there's no way we can even have a peek into the elaborations that these texts go, the details in which these things are well laid out. They're all mind-boggling, and the guys will have to undergo more than a decade-long training in order to become proficient, or rather, in order to become an assistant to a proficient. So my teacher told me that there is one particular ritual where the rice, the grain, will have to be husked. Okay, the husking has to be done with pounding. Okay, people know that, everyone was doing that way. But when you pound, what happens, and then you collect the rice out of that, suppose you find there is one particular rice grain which has got a portion of husk sticking. What will you do? You cannot do that. That you cannot do. So typically we use our nails to do that, because with the hand you cannot remove it. So with your nails you can actually hold and then remove it. That nakakrantanu is prohibited. You have to throw the whole grain out or put it back in the thing and then pound it and then take the grain. So the details, there are a lot of details. And when for instance, there are grass that needs to be collected from the garden. And when you're cutting the grass, some mantras have to be told. You have to utter those mantras and then cut those grass. And then mantras galore. Every action has got some mantra behind it. There are very, very few actions where mantras are not there. So the details are pretty, involved. So these guys really mean business when they mean rituals, and no questions should be asked. If this should be done, you may say, what is the objective is to remove this, right? No, the means has to justify the end. It's not mere end. You see that this karma kanda actually teaches us. It's not that you can achieve your end by any whimsical method just because you are able to reach the end. But no, you will have to have the means to justify the end. And means, why you are adopting this means? Because it is given in the scriptures. Not something which you devise on your own. There is no creativity permitted in rituals. Well, suppose if a particular ritual says that you have to use a copper bowl, and say you have got a brass bowl, you cannot be replaced. It cannot be replaced. You have to use copper bowl. And the cotton threads. If cotton threads are prescribed, you cannot use silk threads. If silk threads are prescribed, you cannot use wool or cotton. Whatever has been specified has to be strictly abided by. No questions asked. So it's not. It requires a different temperament and an attitudinal orientation in order to be engaged in rituals. You may say, hey, these things are all farcical and whimsical and funny, and people didn't have time. I'm sorry, people had a lot of time, and then they made all these elaborate routines. Like for example, the olden days, the housewives, housewives were given a lot of work only to keep her engaged. If you actually carefully look through the way they have to conduct their households, most of these operations were kept very laborious and tedious, so that she will have very little time for herself to do free thinking. It's a bit harsh. It's a harsh reality. But then, thanks to that, women were strong. The men grew weak. The women were strong. Okay, anyway, that aside, jokes aside, what was I trying to say? That these rituals expect a lot of temperamental correction and attitudinal orientation in order to be engaged in the ritual. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's nice. So I had something else in my mind when I wanted to say this. Yeah, true. Yeah. So the means will have to justify the end, which is a very, very important. Yes, got back my thread. If you say that these are pretty whimsical and not justified, it's unscientific and all, I would like to draw reference to those days when sterilization was not discovered. So there was one guy who used to do a lot of operations. So very few operations really succeeded, and most of the operations failed. Operations is not as complicated as the heart transplants and all. A simple surgery where a little incision even had to be made were proving to be very perilous for the patient. So this guy, once what happened, he had to do some kind of a very involved operation for a wife of a guy. And then this guy happens to be working in a mechanic shop. And then he came running. The doctor was about to enter into the operating theater. And then his hands were very dirty. Dirty. And then he came gasping for breath and then holding the doctor's hand, and he begged, do something that my wife survives this operation. And then the doctor had actually prepared himself for the operation in whatever techniques that are prescribed. He abided by all those regulations. And then when he was just about to enter, this incident happened. And then when he looked at his hand, that's when he realized that his hand got greased. When his hand got greased, he understood, I'm able to see this dirt, so I'm able to clean. What about those dirt which I'm not able to see? And that's what the infection is all about. And then that particular operation, he sterilized everything. Then the only way of sterilization they know about is heating. Hot water, put everything inside. And I think the story goes about that the lady survived the operation. So now the question here is, because it was unseen, people didn't take notice of it. And just because we don't know the connection between the ritual and the means and the end, we don't have the right to blame the means. Certainly we don't have the right. It's just that we have possibly not yet attained that extent of mental subtlety to understand the implications and the ramifications of these rituals. But that's part one of the story. The part two of the story here is that the rituals are detailed, and one must have a unquestionable orientation and obedience to all the prescriptions. Means if it is compromised, then the end will also be compromised. So such a ritual, Nachiketa wanted to be instructed. And then he says, see, Shraddhadanaya Mahyam. Prabruhitam Shraddhadanaya Mahyam. See, the disciple, when he goes and asks the teacher, the disciple must be in a position to accept, as he rightly said, right? So if the teacher wants to give, the disciple should be able to receive. So the prime qualification for a person who is engaging in the Karma Kanda is he must possess unquestionable Shraddha. So he says, Shraddhadanaya, me who is possessed with Shraddha. To such a person, please instruct me. That means whatever you say, I'm not going to contradict. I'm going to accept it. I'm not going to challenge it. I'm going to abide by it. I'm not going to ignore it. I'll be doing it. So he is showing 3 levels of allegiance by saying that he has the Shraddha. So I always think to myself, a mechanical engineer from IIT. So he does MBA and does sales. So the knowledge of the mechanical engineering is not translated into final output. Well, his ends are taken care, but the means is not justifying the end. Correct? But here he says, I have a Shraddha. So when the moment he has a Shraddha, all the 3 levels he is able to deploy. And then Shloka 14 says, Prate bravimi tadu me nibodha swargamagnim nachiketah prajanan ananta lokapti mato pravishtam viddhitvametam nihitam guhayam. So then, the Yama faithfully describes the fire that will lead a person to heaven, Swargaloka. And Nihitam Viddhi Tvam Etam Nihitam Guhayam is a very interesting idea. That is, the heaven that people are actually looking for, that particular heaven is lodged in your heart. Nihitam Guhayam. Etam Ananta Loka. Ananta Loka means an endless world. Pratishtam. Viddhi, know that. Etam Ananta Lokam Guhayam Nihitam, which is seated in the cavity of the heart. So that is the reason why every ritual is compounded with a upasana, meditation. So every ritual has got a because the same object of attainment is there seated in your heart. And in order to reach the cavity of heart, upasana or meditation is the prescribed method. So you will find that this is very interesting corroboration between so-called the macrocosmic reality and the microcosmic reality. When you say in the cavity of the heart is the intellect or whatever you say, which is microcosm. Microcosm here means man. Microcosm doesn't mean microorganism. Okay? Whenever microcosm is used, it means the human being. When macrocosm is used, everything other than him. Entire. The whole universe. That's macrocosm. Okay? So Vidusham Buddho Nivishtam. So Vidusha is a person who is a man of wisdom. So a man of wisdom, where will he run to find the heaven? He will run inside to find that heaven. That's what this particular correction. This blue things is written by Shankaracharya. So he says that There is an interesting story which is often said in the Buddhistic faith. There was one trainer, a Buddha. He was sitting and then helping the students in meditation. All of a sudden, there was a smile tremor felt. When the tremor was felt, the disciples understood that there is something going to happen there. They immediately ran out of the building. Because tremors usually lead to collapse, building collapse, and people die because things falling on them. So they said that they thought it's wise enough to escape, and then they ran out of the building. And then the tremor settled, nothing untoward happened. And then these children again came back and then sat. The meditation session was over. They all asked the master, Master, why did you risk your life just by sitting? You could have just come along with us. We would have missed a good teacher in you. You would have come with us. The teacher says, you missing me, it will be good if I miss you guys. Well, jokes aside, he said, you see, you are trying to reach out for help. I reached in for help. So the world outside can be, the purpose of living in this world is for what? Is for reaching that cavity in the heart. So the moment when your life is threatened, would you like to hold on to life, or would you like to get to that seat of cavity? If that's the purpose of life, then that should be done. Not trying to hold on to life. So the Buddha Bhikkhu says that when the objective is to get seated in that cavity, and you should do that more concentratedly and more purposefully, rather than running out. Because that's a good opportunity for you to be there. Just by chance you die. Neither you get this life nor you get the next life. So Vidusham. So this man, the Buddhist guy, he's a Vidusha, he's a wise man. So he discovered that the cavity of the heart, the intellect, is the seat of the soul. That is the seat which really belongs to me, and I need to resurrect myself on that seat rather than sitting on these material seats and looking for chairs and positions and name and fame. They are all various seats, Instead of that, we have to go and occupy that particular seat which is most priceless. Shloka 15 says, Lokadi magnim tamuvacha tasmai ya ishtaka yavatirva yathava sachapi tat prat yavadat yathoktam athasya mrityuhu punarevaha tushtaha. Ya ishtaka ya avatirvaya yathava. So that means a hint has been given that the altars, how they are made, and what are the designs that are going to be used. All those things Yama explained to Nachiketa.
All these things are being said to fulfill the first boon.
Second, first boon given. First boon given. This worldly security given to him. Now the heavenly security. So after his life, he has to reach somewhere. After the death, he has to reach somewhere. So he's trying to secure that world. And then Shloka 16 says, Tamabravit priyamano mahatma maram tavekhatya dadami bhuyaha tavaiva namna bhavitaya magnihi srinkam cha imam aneka rupam grihana. Then, whenever a teacher comes and explains things to the student, and if the student is really eager to know, the teacher also gets excited about it. And then he tells more than what is necessary even. And then he even gives them allowances. Anytime you can come to my room and ask. That's an allowance. So anytime means what? Between 4 and 5. No. Even 6, 7 also you can come. But your office will be closed. No, don't worry. For you, I will be there. So he spends extra time and then gives that exclusive private counseling for this guy because he's interested. Every teacher will be exceedingly interested if he sees bright students around. Because he wants to share the best of his learnings. And When opportunity presents itself, God knows when it will come again. So Yama got tired dealing with all souls with rustic origin. So when Nachiketa came, he just poured out. Never he had such a student asking such question. Not only merely being eager and curious, but he is a person whom Yama was so confident that he will abide by what is being given. He will protect that knowledge and perpetuate it. So what he says is, therefore, I give you a bone from my side extra. 1 to 2.1. So 2.1 I am giving. What is that? This particular fire will be called by your name. It will be called the Nachiketa fire. And not only that, he had a lot of freebies around him, some nice garlands. So he gave all those garlands to this 7-year-old kid. Shloka 17. Trinachiketas tibiretya sandhyam trikarma krit tarati janma mrityu brahmajagnyam devamedyam viditva nichayema shantim atyantam eti. So now this is a general statement. It says that Trinachiketa, that is, there are multiple meanings for this. At least two meanings people give. That is a Nachiketa which is threefolded sacrifice, or a Nachiketa sacrifice 3 times. You can do the whole thing 3 times. Tribiretya sandhyam. Tribiretya sandhyam means, Trisandhi means enjoining himself with 3 factors. Enjoining himself with 3 factors here means with father, mother and acharya. That is 1 3 factor. Enjoining oneself with the father, mother and acharya here means he is not going against the wishes and the instructions and the conduct that is appropriate with mother, father and teacher. You see, any person who is a yaji is a person who does yajna. Okay, yaji should be abiding by shastras, should respect father, mother and teacher. It's must. Calling names of the teacher is completely prohibited. We cannot have any slighting attitude towards the teacher at all. No nicknames, no hi-bye. Nothing from that. They are all strict regulations according to shastras. So if you want to perform a sacrifice and be a true, you want to gain the right results, then you will have to yata matruman, pitruman, acharyavan. Vivekananda says, matruman, pitruman, acharyavan. A person who has a mother would have been instructed well. A person who has a father would have been instructed well. A person who has a teacher will also be instructed well. A person who has all the 3 will be instructed very well, deeply well, in the deepest well. So now he will not go against the teachings, thereby he will not be going against the mother, father and the teacher. So Tribiretya Sandhim here gives a wonderful conduct for a student also. And other thing is, another Trisandhi is also, I think I have made a mention here. Oh, I have not mentioned. Okay, no problem. So now another thing is Smriti, Shruti. Oh, I have given here. Correct. Father, mother, teacher. Pratyaksha, Anumana and Agama. That is another. Pratyaksha, that is what you have a direct perception. And then Anumana is inferential perception. And then Agama is what the scriptures say. So knowledge can be acquired in 3 ways. Either I see myself, or I use inference, or I read the books. I have not verified it, but I read the books. So Tribiretya Sandhi means acquiring the knowledge which is not contradicted by Pratyaksha, Anumana and Agama, which is in line with all these 3. Tribiretya Sandhi. Otherwise, the Trisandhim also means Shruti, Smriti and good men. The prescriptions of the Shruti, of the Smriti, and what the good men have told. Not going against that. Total abidance. Such a person will be able to cross the birth and death. Janma Mrityu Tarati. Taranam means crossing. You see, the knowledge is being given such a high value here. A man who knows, that's why they say knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. It's because you get a complete control over the circumstances. Total control over circumstances with knowledge. So he says that he crosses the birth and death knowing the adorable, the bright and the omniscient fire of the Brahman. Brahmajajnam Devam Idyam Viditva, having known them, Nichayema Shantim Atyantam Shanti, illimitable bliss he gets. Okay. But this illimitable bliss is also that which is what is called as the bliss from the dualistic perspective, not the monistic bliss, not the what you call, not the bliss of the Atma. Here, Brahman here actually means the Hiranyagarbha, Brahmaloka, Brahmalokapti, Brahmaloka Prapti. Because a fire has been given as a means, which is dualistic in nature. Therefore, your end also will be dualistic in nature. So there will be a Brahmaloka Prapti where he enjoys, has illimitable bliss. We are slowly moving towards the important question. Shloka 18. Trinachiketas trayametat viditva evam vidvan chike nachiketam samrityu pashan puratah pranadya shokadigo modate swargaloke. Same idea that he enjoys in the heaven for a very, very long time. 19. Eshate agnihi nachiketah swargyah yamavrinita dvitiyena varena etamagnim taveva prabhakshanti janasastiti yom varam nachiketo vrinishva. So yeah, here is the place where he gives the name as the Nachiketa fire. And then comes the most important of this text, because the means to justify the end. So if you want a correct answer, you have to ask the correct question. So the purpose of the text is for delineating the knowledge path for gaining the ultimate knowledge, the knowledge path for realization. So Nachiketa puts forth the third boon, or request for the boon. Yayam prete vichikitsa manushe asti iti eke na ayam asti iti cha eke etad vidya anushishtastvayaham varanameshah varastitiyah. Vichikitsa means doubt. Prete means preta sharira, you know, right? Preta is life without body. Soul without body is called preta. So ye ayam yo ya yam prete, in the life without a body, in that transmigrational avastha state, some people say that he exists, that such a person exists. And na ayam asti, such a person doesn't exist at all. It's stupid to think of a being without a body. Some people say that yeah, such a being exists without the body, and some people say that it is stupid to have such kind of a notion of being without a body. So that means what? The second notion simply means the death means death of everything. There is absolutely nothing remaining thereafter. So, is it justified? Is that particular situation justified, position justified? No religion actually takes this position. No religion takes this position. Every religion talks about life after death. Every religion. The moment you remove life after death, suppose a religion comes to a naught, the entire pursuit and the entire modicum of religion is hinging on this one particular frail link of hope that we continue to exist even after our so-called. So some people say that we don't exist. Who? I do not know. Materialists. Materialists may say that we don't exist. Atheists. Atheists are the persons who don't believe anything with regards to. Atheists are the ones who are actually adharmika. Adharmika are the Charvakas. Yes, they are totally materialists. Absolutely. Actually, Charvaka comes from the name Charu Vaka. Vak means speech. Charu means sweet. So they have a very sweet speech, you know. Arey, enjoy your life, yaar. क्या है इसमें? मौज करो, ऐश करो. अरे दो दिन का जमाना है ये. हाँ, यावत् जीवित सुखम जीवित. ऋणम कृत्वा घृतं पिबेत्. These two are very popular verses of this. Charu Vaka. Charvaka is not a person. It's a philosophy which gives an invitation card into the hell. So to say. So yeah, materialists, purely materialists. That they say, see, actually materialists, you know, they are not to be belittled, belittled rather. Even they do have some justification.
They existed during Vedic period.
Yeah. Charvakas were there. Yes. That's the beauty of our religion. That see, whenever you have a paksha, when you have a paksha, you will have a vipaksha also. Always. That is the human nature. Somebody will say A, another person will say A underneath. So thereby, the, the questions of all kinds existed from time immemorial. Some people say no, killing is mandatory. The other person say no, killing is not mandatory. One person will say no, you have to eat to live. The other person says no, prana is the one which sustains, not eating. Whatever you say, there will be an antithesis to that. And there are people who have established even those facts in their own way. So here he says that show me, if you have life, show me. No, I cannot show you. So it doesn't exist. Because you can't show me, it doesn't exist. So it's a very, very promising argument. So this Charvaka people, in fact, there is something called as epiphenomenon. Epiphenomenon simply says that consciousness is a product of matter. Consciousness is a product of matter. When the matter comes together, all of a sudden the consciousness gets manufactured.
And they have given the example of pan. Nothing in pan is
Red.
but when you chew it, it becomes red.
Agreed. But the one difficulty there is, the redness is matter. Redness is matter. And the pan's substance also is matter. So matter to matter transformation. Perfect. But here matter to spirit, where the spirit has absolutely no definition or nothing being, the spirit cannot be defined in the material terms.
That's why they couldn't answer what is Chaitanya.
Chaitanya cannot be answered. No, the Westerners, they, in order to see, the life is a particular phenomenon which begs a lot of investigation. And some people have come to a quick realization of life is only this. And some people are adamantly holding on to it, not accepting any of the propositions. So the scientists are adamantly holding on to it. Don't think that scientists have already come to a conclusion. When they say that consciousness is the product of the whichever branch of scientists, they say the consciousness is the product of material, it's because they see everything is an outcome of matter. So they say that how come there can be an exception to that? It's not that they are proving that the consciousness is the product of, it is their hypothesis. And they are also desperately trying to prove. We may say that their search will be in vain. Because for the simple reason that the proof of matter being a product of consciousness has been realized to oneself, within oneself. But that cannot be categorically placed for a commoner's consumption. It cannot be done because of the nature of the so-called consciousness. So the limitation comes in the language with which we actually say things about the matter in terms of consciousness. And likewise, even those scientists who would like to express consciousness also will find that the language is not able to help them to describe the consciousness in terms of matter. Neither am I able to, but the matter itself has undergone a lot of definitional changes. What was supposed to be gross material has now entered into an ethereal substance like a wave. Correct? So the wave dual nature of the matter was actually a mind-boggling discovery by De Broglie. I mean, that when during my school days when I read, I thought what stupid thing it is. Because 9th standard, unless I write that De Broglie's dual way of nature, I won't get marks. So but later when we go to higher education and see that more details are coming out of it, then we find that wow, what a wonderful theory they have come up with. And the Hindu mind is trained for quick generalizations. We immediately jump to our consciousness and say, yes, consciousness in its most ethereal aspect is the spirit, and the most gross aspect is the matter. The dual nature. So we make such a quick generalization. That's okay. It is convincing, But the scientists want real proofs, real proofs. They want really instruments to do that. But with instruments you cannot do it because instruments itself is a matter. And consciousness is an evolute if you say such a consciousness can never be explained by matter. As matter. Every evolute of matter will have to be a matter. That itself disproves that consciousness cannot actually come out of matter. But they say that consciousness doesn't exist at all. It's only a kind of a sense that is prevailing. As much as your anger, as much as you call your sleep even. Sleep even is a state of consciousness, some kind of a dull consciousness. So even that is material in its content because it can be disturbed. So they have their own prescriptions. So the point that I am trying to ask here is that Nayam Asti Cha Aike, that life beyond death doesn't exist, is a very pertinent question. And the answer is not to be found only in the scripture, but with self-interrogation, introspection. So, etad vidyam anushishtaha toyaham. I wish to be instructed in this particular topic. And varana meshaha varasritiyaha. Of all the three bones, this is my third bone. Rather, request for bone. And then 21. Bhashya, if you say. See, there's a very beautiful comment which Acharya Shankara makes. Ataha vidhi pratisheda artha vishaya
What is this model with hardware superimposing activity agency and
artha vishayasya. Oh, vishayasya. The circle vishayasya. Yes, and this dash. The dash has become a circle because I typed capital. See, D and capital D, there are two. So I should have pressed the sir and D, but I said yes, sir and capital D. So that's why this thing came. Vishayasya. He explains here as of why this question is relevant, why this question comes out of Nachiketa's mouth. Atmani kriya karaka phala adhyaropana lakshanasya swabhavikasya ajnanasya samsara bijasya nivrityartham tad viparita brahma atmaikatva vijnanam kriya karaka phala adhyaropana shunyam atyantika nishresa prayojanam vaktavyam iti grantaha arabhyate. Grantaha arabhyate is now not coming there. No, same. Grantaha arabhyate. No, back. So, vidhi and pratisheda. Vidhi means injunctions. Pratisheda means prohibitions. The entire ritual portion of the Vedas, they all consists of what should be done and what should not be done. Just as the way I said, that hanana should be used for removing the husk, nakakrantanam, not by nails. So not by nails is a prohibition, and hanana means pounding. That pounding should be used, that is injunction. Okay? Vidhi pratishedharthaya Atmani means in the, I think the whole thing got displaced by one line. Oh, I'm surprised how it got. Anyway, so superimposing activity, agency and enjoyment. Kriya is activity, Karaka is agency and Phala is enjoyment. Now this Kriya, Karaka and Phala, what we have done is, that has been superimposed on the Atma. We say, the Atman is the doer. Atman is engaged in the action. Atman itself is the action. Action is upon the action. Action is upon the Atman. And enjoyment is also upon the Atman. That is, I am enjoying the fruits of my work. So, this Kriya Karaka Phala has been superimposed on the Atma, which is Swabhavikasya Ajnanasya. This is a very natural ignorance. Right from the birth, we are possessed with this ignorance. We don't have to be taught. That is, untaught, we are ignorant in this fashion. Samsara bijasya. Now this is actually the very seed of our transmigration. Samsara means samyak saranam, with this continuous sequence of birth and death. This ajnana, what is that ajnana? That the Atman, see the question is about the Atma. Minus this Atma, you have all this Vidhi Nisheda and Kriya Karaka, Bhoga. Now all these things are superimposed on the Atma. Correct? And then we ask this question, what will happen to me after death? Where will I go after death? Will I continue to exist or not? So all these questions are asked by superimposing this on this. For heaven, up to heaven it is okay. But beyond heaven, the superimposition is not going to serve any purpose. That's what is giving here. Nivrityartham. In order to put an end to this superimposition, Nivrityartham, that Viparita Brahma Atmaikatva Vijnanam. That is, the supreme reality, which is the Atma, is different from all these plane of duality. And this Atma that we are going to talk about, which is the core of yourself, is one with the universal reality, which is Brahman. Whenever we talk about an individual, we talk about two forms of reality. One is the individual reality and the cosmic reality. Correct? So the cosmic reality, whenever you want to mention, you use the word Brahman. And when you are referring to the individual reality, you have to say Atma. Synonymously it can be changed, but the man who listens to will get confused. So he says Brahma Atmaika Ekatvam. So these two are one. That Vijnanam Kriya Karaka Phala Adhyaropana Shunyam. When you get that knowledge that this Atma and the Brahma are one, Atman and the Brahman is one, then in that state Kriya, which is agency, action, agency and Phala, that Adhyaropa, the superimposition, that association, Shunyam, it will cease to exist. And what happens? Atyantika Nishreyasa Prayojanam. The ultimate purpose of life, Atyantikam, is the eminence, spiritual eminence, which is the real purpose of life. In order to explain that, Grantaha Arabhyate, the subsequent portion commences. That is, the Atma and the Atman, which is same as the Brahman, in order to acquire that knowledge, we have to de-superimpose ourselves. Suppose somebody comes to the IIT, somebody joins in the IIT. Okay, first day itself there is an induction program. You guys who are seniors tell this junior and then say, you cannot survive here. Now what this guy will think about himself? So if you put a wrong thought into him, that wrong thought, it will take 4 years for him to get rid of it. You know where he will get rid of it? He will get it and put it into the fresher. Because just as the way I am treated, I am going to treat others. So he is going to deposit the same thing into the fresher. But on the first day you come and say, hey, this is just yet another place. Hey, just do your daily work and then a little bit of extra creativity and you are through. You make light of things, but then make him yoked into the practice. Then that way he will have a very pleasurable experience through this. So what happens? Ideas are able to create notions, and then it can either make you strong or it can weaken you also. So the text says that Swabhavika, the moment I got into IIT, people told me all wrong things they have told me. That, very difficult, so many, newspaper itself is telling a lot of things. And, this is not the way to do. But, so Swabhavika, it's quite natural that the person gets overwhelmed when it comes into the portals of higher learning. And technically higher learning. So now, what we have to de-superimpose it. We have to de-superimpose it. Say, hey, it's not like that. I've been thinking like that. No, aisa nahi hai bhai. We just did a little bit extra things, came in. And people living here also human being only. They are not he-man and she-man. So she-woman. So they are also like that only. They have also gone through the same path that we are going through. And very soon that is also going to come under our own realm of experience. And you are going to give the same gyan to the fresher a couple of years later. So what is there to worry? Output is commensurate to input. So you put that input, you will get that output. So it lightens the whole thing. So that this de-superimposition has to be done. In order to do that, the text is beginning now. From this portion, the text starts. It's a very beautiful, encouraging. Another 4 minutes, I will lose my friend here. So next slide. Devairatrapi vichikitsidam pura nahi suvignyaya manuresha dharma ayam varaha nachiketo vinishva ma mo parot sirati ma sujainam. You see, even the gods of yore had doubt. Now the Brahma, the Yama, is now very tricky. Now he is trying to play it safe. The reason being, up to heaven, to show Shraddha is understandable. But to go beyond that requires what is called Mahavishwasa. Vishwasa alone is not sufficient. You require Mahavishwasa. That is an amount of Shraddha which is in abundance. So much so that you negate, so-called, you give up all what you have attained with so much of Shraddha. So for instance, we attain the laurel of this institution, coming through this institution or anywhere. Can you give up that laurel? Because we had invested a lot of effort, a lot of belief and convictions in order to acquire that laurel. Now, can you just give up that and then seek something which is so-called contradicting your present acquisition? And if that says that you have to give up your present acquisition in order to search after this particular knowledge or truth, will you do that? You will not do that. But then if you are ready to do that, naturally it is worthy to be tested. Whether you really have that metal within you to search for beyond your means. Within your means you have already got. And beyond your means you have to give up. Are you ready to give up? So Yama puts Nachiketa through a test. He says, you see, the question that you have asked is really very complicated, and the gods themselves have been very perplexed with this. Gods are the subtlest of the creations, and they have no bodily afflictions. They don't have the cheap desires that a man is infested with. Correct? And their role is cosmic in nature. They control the whole universe. We are not able to control our own little prevailing circumstances. Correct? But they control the whole world. So they are much more powerful. They are in higher consciousness. Even these guys are confused. Vichikitsa, they have doubt. Nahi suvignyaya anuresha dharma. Suvignyaya, it cannot be clearly discerned. And anuhoyesha, it's very atomic in nature, so subtle. Anyamaram achiketo vinishva, he is dissuading in a poo-poo. Get away. You are not meant for this kind of knowledge. You better ask for something, little toys and whatever, little pencil and those things you ask. We shall keep our dealings at that level. This is not, we are not, they say, we are not on the even ground to play this game of giving you the spiritual knowledge. So this is kind of, it's almost belittling Nachiketa. But here it's a very interesting idea Yama puts through that. But however, I am bound to answer you because it's my boon to you. My boon to you. So just as the way uparodam ma karshihi, this is the word adhamarnam iva uttamarna. Adhamarna, rana means debt. Adhamarana is a debtor. Uttamarana is a creditor. So suppose you take something, you take a loan from me, or I take a loan from you. Are you going to leave me? You will press till you squeeze the last penny out of me. So don't do that to me, because I have already given you the boon. So I am ready now. I am bound to answer your queries, but don't press me further on this particular ground. You relieve me from the obligation of trying to answer this question, and let's do some other. In place of anyam varam, you ask for something else. And then he goes on. The discussion is pretty interesting, and we are already 1 hour from the start. Next one is what? Deviratra, which is in Killer. We'll go through in our next meeting. It's 11 o'clock. Shall we continue a little bit, or we can continue? Huh? Okay, but I'll be missing my friend here. Okay, good. I'll brief up this portion in the next class and then continue with that. Huh? So Devairatrapi vichikitsitam kilatvam chamrityo yenna sugyayamaptar vakta chasya twadra ganyo na labhyo na anyo varastulya etasya kaschite. And once, by the way, read the page number 17. Read. Have you brought your books? If you happen to have, or I'll read it for you guys. You see, when when he asked this question, Yayam Prete, there is a wonderful passage from the, the volume 2 book. What question has been asked a greater number of times? What idea has led men more to search the universe for an answer? What question is nearer and dearer to the human heart? What question is more inseparably connected with our existence than this one? The immortality of the human soul, that is the question. It has been the theme of poets and sages, of priests and prophets. Kings on the throne have discussed it. Beggars on the street have dreamt of it. The best of humanity have approached it, and the worst of men have not hoped for it. The interest in the theme has not died yet, nor will it die so long as human nature exists. Various answers have been presented to the world by various minds. Thousands again, in every period of history, have given up the discussion, and yet the question remains fresh as ever. Often in the turmoil and struggle of our lives, we seem to forget it, but suddenly someone dies. One, perhaps whom we loved, one near and dear to our hearts, is snatched away from us. And the struggle, the din, and the turmoil of the world around us cease for a moment, and the soul asks the old question, what after this? What becomes of the soul? See how pertinent this particular passage is. So poignant. That means each one of us, none of us are spare. But him we can call a wise, who asks this question proactively, will hide in time. The same thing happened with Vibhishana. Vibhishana, at the passage when his brother Ravana died, naturally, even though he may be the heinous of the villains, being one's own brother, he had his own agony to hide. And then he wanted to take sannyasa. Then Ramachandra says, this particular vairagya that you have got is because of the death of the near and dear one. It's called Smashana Vairagya. And collect yourself, recollect yourself, and then hold on to yourself. Never allow yourself to get dissipated. And then the things will change because you have to rule this kingdom. And so on and so forth, he is consoled. But the point here is that all of us go through that kind of a situation. These grapes are sour. That's one situation where we try to give up and then say that, the world is not what it is supposed to be and what I'm supposed to be seeing as. That's because you have not got it the way you wanted it. It did not shape itself according to your desire. The design was disrupted. It was not to your liking. So it changes all of a sudden, if it changes color, if it becomes attractive, if a new proposition comes and lures you back into its fold, again we will be committing the same mistake. And this is what is actually getting into the cycles of success and failure within this world. That happens. Let it happen in its own way. But also have a corner of the mind in which we ask this question, well, is there any wisdom in leading this kind of a life? In a hopeless pursuit after a silhouetted existence or a mirage. It continues. But then what are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? Somebody asked Vivekananda. So Swamiji, what are we supposed to do? If we are all Brahman, what are we supposed to do? He says, if you think that you're all Brahman, you're supposed to do nothing. Because the Kriya, Karaka and Phala are superimposed on Brahman, doesn't belong to Brahman. But then he says, if you're not able to do that, do good to the world. So that was Vivekananda's prescription. So now here, what we are trying to do here is, we are trying to remember the first slide that I gave, value education. Education with experience, education with values. That is, Now the book reading has helped us to know that there are other methods and sources of knowledge, other objects of knowledge, and we need to be engaged in acquiring that knowledge. Just as the way we have our own small bracket of time for entertainment, some bracket of time for exercise, some bracketed time for our own sleep and well body upkeep, some bracketed time for creativity, some for our regular routine, washing clothes. We have a bracketed time for each of these little activities. We should have a bracketed time for engaging ourselves in the pursuit of this knowledge through meditation, through serious introspection. In introspection through with the help of course books, and then people around. Satsanga is also very essential. We have got wonderful. Chennai is a very good place, so books are wonderful eternal companion. And these days YouTube is filled with a lot of ideas, but you have to be very choosy with regards to which idea you're going to take it up and proceed. So Devairatrapi Vichikitsitam, the reason being why Devas are also confused is because they are not in the active pursuit of this knowledge. They are not in the active pursuit. But man has the freedom to pursue this knowledge. That's the reason why even the gods, our scriptures themselves say, the gods are being jealous of the human beings. Because one thing, they may be extremely powerful in ruling this universe, but they don't have the freedom for self-emancipation. We may be hopelessly bound and have the meanest of the existence in this, much worse than the worm crawling on the ground, more pathetic and full of tragedy. But in spite of it, on one account, that man is free to strive for self-emancipation, which is not there in no plane of existence, be it in the subhuman levels or the superhuman levels. Only human being has got this freedom for self-emancipation. So having got that opportunity, Nachiketa put that to good use. He says that don't do all that. You say that the gods themselves are confused about this life after death and then the progression after death. If you say that, then who else is the best teacher than you? Because you are the guy who is leading the souls after death. So you really know the point up to which you have the limit and the limit beyond limit. So you are the best person. You yourself have come out of the box of hiding. He says that Bhakta chasya todriganyana labhyo. And then see anitya phalatvat anyasya sarvasya eva iti abhipraya. That is, everything else has got short-term life. So that's the reason why I would like to go to the 23rd shloka. Satayusha putra pautra aneshva bahun pashun asti hiranyamashwan bhumer mahad ayatanam grinishva swayancha jiva sharado yavadichasi. So now all this kind of kind counseling did not help. Then he goes to the lethal blow. The lethal blow, if you have a child, lure him with a chocolate. So that's the easiest way you can pacify a nagging child. So he says, Shatayusha, I'll give you 100. Shatayusha means I'll give you 100 life of 100 lives. 100 lives I'll give you in one life. So that means what? One life is supposed to be 100 years. So 100 into 100 will be 100 into 100 is 10,000. So 10,000 years you will live. Shatayusha. Putra, Pautra. Brinishva. You ask for sons, ask for sons. Sons means what? Simply Putra means they are all choicest of the sons. I mean, they are the ones who are most, wanted kind of sons. Nobel laureates, and then, great emperors, and maybe even greatest of saints. All these kinds of luminaries, even gods themselves, disguised as human beings. As your sons, not only sons, even grandsons. So, Putra, Pautra, Anisha, Bahun, Pashun, Asti, Hiranyamashwan, every kind of worldly wealth. Bhumehe Mahad Ayatanam. Mahad Ayatanam, Bhume Mahad, you have asked for a big house in this expanse of the world. Vrinishva Swayancha Jivaha Sharadaha Yavadichasi. Now then he thought, Acha, Shatayusha means 10,000, maybe he wants 1 lakh. So then he says, he cuts even that number also, he cuts it down. He says, Swayancha Jiva, you choose your lifetime. I'll give you that. You name a figure, it's a blank check. You put your number, I'll credit that money into your account. You see, what is it? What is the scripture is trying to say? What is the scripture is trying to say here?
After like, you don't.
No. With this particular allurement, what is the scripture trying to establish?
Don't ask for the next life, or it's trying to avoid it by prolonging the life.
Most of the people will get caught within either boom 23 or 24 or 25.
That is true. That is true. There should not be even a hair width of desire. If you have a hair width of desire in your mind to have any of these kinds of enjoyment, you will break down.
Then you cannot have that knowledge.
Ah,
The light.
then you will you will fall. Not that you cannot have. That's a corollary. Thing is, you will take one of these things and settle for that. Even if you have a hair width of desire for the lesser values. So that's the reason why mere Shraddha is not sufficient. You require something more. So Shraddha Danaya Mahyam, when he said about Nachiketa fire, the same Shraddha he says, Shraddha Danaya Mahyam, so explained to me the Atma, he didn't say. You require something more than Shraddha, apparently. Pardon me?
What is that something more?
It's called Mahavishwasa or Mahashraddha, you can say. Shraddha of a very high order, since the word has been already used. So it is possibly the highest of the Shraddha, kind of expletives only can be used. Actually, more than Shraddha, what we require is Mahavairagyam. Shraddha here has to be accompanied with Vairagyam. So here, as many autumns, Swayancha Jiva Sharadaha Yav. Sharada, every autumn is 1 year. Okay, how many ever autumns you want to live, you can live. You can say. So next question. Etatulyam yadimanyase param pranishva vittam chera jivikamcha mahabhumau nachiketasto medhi kamanantva kama bhajam karuni. Again, he is not going, he is hitting hard and emphasizing more on the gifts that he is giving and trying to dissuade Nachiketa from the boon that he is seeking for. So, Nachiketa is watchful. He is not interrupting Yama. Yama is now slowly exhausting all his cards. Okay, next card, let us see. Ye kama durlabha martyaloke sarvan kamans chandatah prarthayasva ima rama sarata saturiya rihidrisha lambaniya manushyehi abhirmat prathabhihi paricharayasva nachiketo maranam ma anuprakshihi. Now see, simply telling live 100 lives, 1,000 lives, 1 lakh lives, how many ever lives you want, he's not showing anything. Okay. Now what he did was, he actually creates that imagination so vivid in Nachiketa's mind by literally showing the items and objects of adoration, which are very, very heavenly and divine in nature. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. It's like 10,000 Tatas and 100,000 Birlas put together. Bill Gates, are uncounted in this amount of bliss that is packed into the gift packet. Okay, so now simply telling that no, I will give you 1 million, but showing the check with 1 million written on that has got a different impact, right? So he's showing the check now. Ima Rama Sarata Saturiya. So these damsels are there who are all enjoyments, and then you can have them. They come with various kinds of musical instruments, and they have got wonderful chariots, beautiful chariots, vehicles. So I will give everything. I'll give them to you. Lambaniya Manushyehi, and that kind of life, this kind of enjoyment you can have for time uncountable, as if. Paricharayasva, use them, make them as your servants, make them as your doorkeeper, as the brooming and all. the highest of the what you call the denizens of the heaven. Make them like your, the most cheapest commodity that you may possibly want to treat them as. Do it. It's all yours. Maranam Manuprashi. Please dissuade. Please do not ask this question about the death. Next question. See, here, Kaka Danta Pariksha Rupam Ma Anuprakshihi. He says, see, the Acharya Shankara puts another interesting observation here. You see, why I am giving you all these costly things, because the boon that you have asked for is unprofitable. It will not get you anything. Kakadanta. Kakadanta means the teeth of a crow. Does crow have a teeth? Crow doesn't have a teeth. Doesn't have a teeth. So it's futile to say that I will give you crow's teeth. Or you ask for a crow's teeth. So Kakadanta, previous one. Kakadanta Pariksha Rupam Ma Anuprakshihi. So it's unprofitable. So meaning to say that this question about death has absolutely no relevance at all, no basis at all, and no utility at all. And you are going to lose everything that is kept on the other end of the balance. And why I am giving all this? I don't give all these things to everyone. See, these are all the commentaries. I don't give all these things to everyone. I am forced to give all these things. These are my only possessions as if. And I am forced to give it because now I have become a debtor. I am supposed to give you something. And you have put me under the obligation of answering the third question, which is unprofitable, which is useless, which is doubtful, which is all kinds of negative things are there with it that has been written. And I am giving all positive things because I want to get it outside the obligation. It's not that I am trying to dissuade you, but there is no other way I can get rid of this obligation. He apparently seems to be positioning himself in a state of helplessness and seeking a kind understanding of Nachiketa to relieve him from that burden. So any person, to কষ্ট করেছে, আচ্ছা ঠিক है বাবা, যা তুমি দেবে আমি নিয়ে নেব, পুরোটা নিয়ে যা তুমি দেবে. That means everything is going to take. I mean, that is a very, very likelihood. It's a likelihood thing to happen, but it didn't happen. In spite of Yama showing desperation in trying to eke himself out of the compulsion of the third boon, Nachiketa stood firm. Next. Shwabhava Matyasya Yadantakaitat Sarvendriyanam Zarayanti Teja. See, all the things that Yama gave Nachiketa are meaningless. You know why? Not because they are meaningless from an eternal perspective. They are meaningless from a child's perspective. What does a child understand by endless life? What does a child understand by flutes and ratham and damsels? He has not attained puberty even. For him, this Rati, Agnihotri and all, how is it going to help? There is absolutely no standing in his consciousness. He cannot even estimate the value of the gift that he is getting. He doesn't know a thing about what he is getting. Correct? So, Yama tried to win a losing battle. But then, the Shastra is not seen in that light. It says that the question is costlier than this. Not because I don't understand the value of this. Nachiketa plausibly did not understand the value of any of those gifts given. A commentator, a person, he can challenge Nachiketa's purity and sanity this way. Correct? All of them are squashed by this first word, Shvobhava. Shvobhava simply means whatever you have given are only for tomorrow. It has no life day after tomorrow.
Nachiketa knows that all these things are useless.
Rasagulla mukhe devar por rasagulla kothai. A experience is Sobharaj. That after having rasagulla in your mouth, the child knows there is no rasagulla on the plate.
Then he's wise. Why is it then?
Not that I should be attracted to rasagulla, but the knowledge that this rasagulla will not be there for tomorrow or day after tomorrow. That knowledge is there for the child. So he makes the highest generalization. It is not necessary that I have to understand the joy behind all the things that you have gifted, and that joy being short lived, and that joy therefore will not serve an eternal purpose, and therefore I should give up that joy. Such a lengthy reasoning is not necessary for him at all. He takes a huge leap from a grain of truth to the mountain of reality. From the grain of truth is sufficient for him to analyze Shobhava, Matyasya, all these are going to come to naught. Not today, tomorrow. For this knowledge, I don't have to appreciate this ratha or this music or, being an emperor or millions of lives. I don't need to appreciate them at all. Whatever you say, they all have a limit. That is of common nature and understanding. Shobhava, yet antaka etat, antakam, all are having end. Sarvendriyanam jarayanti teja. And here puts one more idea that indriyas, I will be using the sense organ to use this. Correct? I may not possibly understand now. I can put it in the bank, and once I become a major, I can use that money. Correct? But I can only use that with my senses. And my senses are going to get degraded. My senses are not going to be for long. Jarayanti, they get aged. It loses the ability to actually have the joy. There is a wonderful experiment done by, I don't know whether he's a Polish scientist or a Portugal scientist, the European. This lady, she did a neuroscience research and tried to understand whenever a person is experiencing the joy, the happiness, what happens in the brain? He said, then she comes to a conclusion that the quantum of happiness that you can have, that your brain can experience, is limited. That quantum is, you don't have an infinite powers to have an unlimited extent of joy, happiness. Say Rasagulla, first Rasagulla you take now. You have some joy. Okay, you have only one. Next day you want. Next day, every day you take. Or maybe you give sometimes 2-3 days gap and keep the interest on the Rasagulla maintained. There will be a point in time your interest in the Rasagulla will go out. Either it will go out in the first 7 days itself after having consumed 10 kgs, or maybe after 100 kgs after 40 years. Because you took little of the joy, and this joy creates a nervous reaction within your brain, and every time you enjoy this world, some amount of ability to enjoy the world gets reduced. That's the reason why people who lead fast life, they get into depression soon. They very soon get into a depressive state of existence. Why? What is the reason? Why cannot the Rasagulla again give back the enthusiasm for them? It's because they have exhausted. They exhausted that plate of enjoyment that is given to them by the virtue of their birth in this incarnation. We believe in multiple incarnations. That's why I'm using this language. So this is a very, very important idea coming from a European scientist. I was really impressed. I'm not able to exactly point out. I should have. Those were the days when I wasn't having mobile things. You read a paper, a book, and then you don't get to have a snap. But I'm desperately trying to get the now that we are into the internet age. I'm trying to desperately hold on to that article and then read more about it. But this is pretty straightforward. The reason is, in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, there is a verse exactly to this effect, which means this. That is, Jati, Ayu, and Bhoga are determined. Jati, which kind of species you will be born, or cockroach or mosquito or what? That will be defined. Jati. Ayu, how long you are going to live? 2 seconds, 20 seconds, 40 hours, 5 hours, 5 years, 10 years, 100 years? Ayu. Bhoga, what kind of enjoyments you are going to have? All are fixed. And this scientific discovery is also coming to the same point. So that's the reason why we require a very measured and a moderate approach to even enjoy the world. Never be hasty in enjoying the world. Take your own time and let things settle in it. Let us get soaked in it in the most natural manner possible. Let us not dump things onto it and then squeeze things into it. Like Rockefeller, he took the orange and then he squeezed it and said, it is this world. The world is like an orange in me, in my hand. I will squeeze I'll squeeze and then enjoy it. So Sri Ram Swami Vivekananda said, yeah, the world is again orange for me also, but I will peel and eat every slice of it. And I'll enjoy every slice of this. So likewise, the kind of way we treat the world, our experience also is commensurate to that. So Shvobhava means this is a master stroke, and he makes it a point to put us the Shastra puts it as the first word. It does not simply say that the Sarvendriyan Jayanteja came later. Apisarvam Jivitam Alpameva, therefore Tavaivavaha Tavanitya Gite. May all these gifts be with you one day. Next. See, previous one. Then see, Acharya Shankara puts a very beautiful phrase here. He says, Maha Hradavat Akshobhya. Huge lake. Suppose a boat is entering into a huge lake. Do you think that the lake will get into turmoil? It will not. It will simply stand like a Haldarpukur. Haldarpukur and Kamarpukur is a huge lake, massive lake. And you go inside, nothing seems to happen to that. The level doesn't rise at all. Akshobhya, it is unperturbed. Achiketa was standing unperturbed. It's so much of gifts on one plate. Dharma, Virya, Prajna, Tejaha, Jayaha, Yashah Prabhutinam, Shapayitritvat. Jarayanti Tejaha, Indriyanam. What is the Teja? That virility. How does it? Dharma, the wisdom of conduct of life, they go away. Viryam, the virility. Prajna. Prajna is your conscience, knowledge and conscience. Tejaha means the ability to digest the meaning of what you study. Completely digest the meaning. That is Tejas. Tejasvi Bhava. They say, na? What is Tejasvi? Tejasvi simply means whatever has been uttered, you get the complete grasp of that utterance. When a teacher says something, you grasp the whole thing. That grasping thing is because of Tejas. That is the reason why children, they get the blessing Tejasvi Bhava. So that when they go through the tutelage, they absorb as much as possible from the teacher. No, everything possible from the teacher. Teja, Yashaha, Kirti, Prabhutinam, etc. All of them, Shapayitritvat, they all get decayed and eroded away. All of them get eroded away over time. Next. Navittena tarpaniyo manusho lapsyamahe vittam andrakshma chetva jivishyamo yavadishasyati varastme varanasya varaniyasya. Navittena tarpaniya manusha. You cannot have wealth, cannot satisfy a man. I mean, do you agree with this? But they are helplessly caught. Now, the more dil mange more is never checked in terms of seeking wealth. That's the reason why this kind of a liturgical knowledge and introspective knowledge. Liturgical knowledge should be compounded with introspective knowledge. And we may say that the subject is a bit superficial. The reason is the things that are meant to be practiced in the stages, when they are not practiced, naturally things will be superficial. So when we say that na vittena tarpaniyo manusho, everybody accepts, everybody. You cannot be complacent when it comes to acquisition of wealth.
So here, sir, Nachiketa is an argument.
Not argument. He is giving his position. Correct.
But very politely.
Very politely. Absolutely. Very politely. He gives a reason why he is stubborn on this particular vow. So because he has to bring out he's speaking out his mind, so that the master will get to know that yes, this person indeed possesses the requisite vairagya. Shraddha is already there. and then he also possesses sufficient vairagya to be instructed in this knowledge of Atma. So the vairagyam is coming in all these, pouring out of his heart. Navittena tarpaniya. No, this one particular phrase itself is so taunting and haunting, But when we look at our own selves, are we contented? We are not contented. But we, at the heart of the heart, we know that money is not everything in our lives. So where is this disparity in our understanding and in our what you call life? And why is it that we are allowing this gulf of difference to exist within us? Why is it that we are not trying to bridge them or annihilate this? Why? Shobhava Matyasya. Whatever we acquire is going to go away, and everyone is aware of it. But we are unable to put that into a very active practice in our life. Why? That Toyoba, right? I think his name is Toyoba is a Japanese. Toyoba or Toyota? Toyota, but his name is Ba, I think. But the founder of Toyota? Toyota. First name? Kishiro Toyota. So he came up with the 5Y technique. You know this 5Y technique? If something untoward happens, don't blame. Ask why it happened. You will get an answer. You will get someone. Because you ask the question why, and your mind is crafty enough to, if the answer doesn't exist, your mind is crafty enough to produce one. Now, is this the correct answer or not? You ask why to that question again. To that answer, you ask why. Why something happened? Something happened because this happened. Why this happened? This happened because something else happened. Why that happened? That happened because yet another thing happened. Why that happened? So that is basically root cause analysis. So this root cause, he calls it 5Y approach. He says 5Y, maybe 3Y sufficient, or maybe 10 times you may ask why. So 5 is the magic number, apparently. Within 5 you will get it. So there is a nice illustration. There is a person who comes to the floor manager, and then he asks, "Sir, I need rest." "Why do you need rest?" "Sir, my back is aching." Looks up and go. Then another person comes and says, "Sir, my back is aching." After 15 minutes, another person comes. "Sir, my back is aching." So, you are also told. The third person, after 10 minutes, he again comes. "Sir, my back is aching." Hey, what is this? All you guys are following your predecessor. This is not the way to do. And he just thought for a while whether he will punish them for coming together and not being at the task, and then maybe penalize them with a reduced payment and so on. So then he thought to himself, "Acha, these guys are coming away from the workshop floor. Let me go and see actually what's happening there." So he goes there and sees. Well, the third guy came away. The fourth guy took his place, and then he found him picking heavy things from the floor. He was picking heavy things from the floor and then collecting it and then keeping it against. So when he was carrying all of them, his back is aching. Then he understood that picking the heavy thing is the reason for. So first why was answered. Now then he asked, "Why did the heavy thing, first of all, damn thing came onto the floor? It should not be on the floor at all." So the question, why is it on the floor? So then the answer came that there was a assembly line. From the assembly line, it was falling down. The heavy thing was going, and then there was an imbalance, and then it was falling down. And then why? It is falling from the assembly line. That is the reason why. But why should it fall from the assembly line at all? So third why was asked. So the third why was simply because there was one particular robo arm which was supposed to hold it, take it, and then put it in the box. That robo arm was picking every other object, but not all objects. So naturally, that which escapes this grasp will naturally fall out of the line. So now that was manually had to be picked and put into the box. So the robo arm was the ye culprit. Then that their questioning doesn't stop there. He asked, why is this robo arm picking something and then missing something? And then he found that the control system had a problem. There was a guy who is controlling that, and then that mode had a problem. And then finally found out that one resistor, one capacitor, something was firing, misfiring, or something. So the electronics problem became a backache problem. Correct? And had the what you call the supervisor punished these guys for skipping from the work, he would have done grave injustice to these people. But by doing the root cause analysis, he actually found the cause of the problem and he stopped all the subsequent side effects. It's 5-way approach. So now I ask this question. Swabhava matyasya. I know that all the things that I get are all short-lived. But then I am of the opinion that I am enjoying the eternal life and eternal bliss. Where is it I am going now? As if it is eternal. Why is it that I am unable to come to it is not that I have to give up. But why is it that this idea is dragging me again and again and I am not able to control that idea? See, I may want to drink coffee now. That's okay, but can I postpone this particular desire for drinking coffee for another half an hour? Or do I helplessly run towards the thing and then take coffee? If I am able to exercise a bit of a control and then stay composed, that means I know I am a master of my emotions. I can control my circumstances. But if I help